Welcome everybody back on the Tech Woke Live. We got my boy O on here. How you doing, O?
Good, man. Feeling good. Man, outside is looking good. Even though I'm inside, I look like I'm in a jail cell right now, but all is well. All is well. I'm looking forward to today's episode.
You look you going live from the DC DC
DC
jail.
jail.
Hey, man, you
Hey,
good,
that's
bro?
funny. Oh, I'm good, man. I feel good. My Lakers out the playoffs, but
Oh,
hey, man, you got to move forward. We don't know. It might be LeBron's last year. He might give us another year. If he does, it's fine. If he doesn't, hey, so long to the GOAT.
man, I'm rooting for y'all. I was actually I've been out the playoffs in NBA for a while. I've been watching y'all, and I'm like, man, if y'all had Luca, I think y'all would have went probably to the finals. To be honest with you, you know.
I agree, but that's the thing, right? You pay all this money to a superstar and he's not available when you need him. That's the thing, man. The game is all about availability, not how good you are.
Availability. Same thing
Mm,
the CIA triad, availability.
right.
So, everybody, we're back on this Tech Woke Live. And in this live, we're going to talk about the future of RMF. Risk management framework is changing. GRC is changing. It's no longer a job where, and it never should have been a job where you just making sure you check the boxes. In general, the field is changing, and if you're going to adapt to the workspace, you're going to do that. And then that's what's going on. Oh, how do you feel? You feel the same way on that?
I do. I do. I think the current state of being an ISO is changing. I think employers are not looking for people who can kind of just, do a checklist and put together some documentation and call it a day. They're requiring so much more. And I think the state of what it means to be an ISO and even RMF is constantly evolving. So there's so much for us to cover today. And I hope people they got their pen and their pad and they're ready to take down some notes.
Yeah, most definitely. This is going to be kind of a more of a technical type live. We're going to go into the depths and the weeds. And if you're on live, if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn, I see you out there. Make sure that you're commenting, asking questions, say something, sharing things, and just let us know you're here. So just make sure you put in the comments, and we're definitely going to bring you up here if if you have some say so. So, like in the beginning, so we're gonna just start this off in the beginning. Let's just talk about our journeys and how we got into the RMF space. Like, you
Mhm.
can go first.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I started off as a cybersecurity engineer. And a lot of that had to do with Linux. A lot of that had to do with uh, adding ACAS vulnerability scanning to like different servers and things and whatnot. So I didn't really get my hands dirty when it came to RMF. Like I knew of the process because even when it came to IAVMs, I had to work with the Windows guys to make sure they was patching some of the IAVMs that was coming out. So it was interesting to see all of that. But when I was actually doing the STIGs, now mind you, I'm an engineer, so I'm not necessarily the ISO that's telling you what to do. I'm the one that's being told what to do. So, I had to basically, go through the different STIG checks, vulnerability STIG checks, uploading the SCAP scan results into STIG Viewer, then going through it and making sure that I'm going through the terminal or even going through the GUI just to make sure that we're in compliance. Then, I was like, you know what, where I was at, because I was all the way in Fair Lakes, Virginia. Coming from New Carrollton, Maryland, that's about like an hour, really. Now it was good because this was around COVID when I got the job. So I'm like the only person on the road because we were mission essential. But once everybody started to go back to work and everybody was outside again, I was like, you know what, I need to find a different job. So I ended up being an ISO for this company called Marathon TS at DISA, and it was the first time actually being part of a information system security officer team, right? Because it was a team of like at least maybe 6 to 8 of us, right? You had ACAS folks, you had guys that was only doing STIGs, you had guys that was only doing documentation. So I'm kind of like, yo, like this, it's so much to pull from. Like I can glean information from all these different groups. And the only thing that they was expecting from us was to just make sure, hey, expecting from me is to make sure, hey, just, get in where you fit in, right? Help out where you can. So one of the things that I started to do was like, okay, I understand STIGs. I can help out with STIGs, but I didn't really understand the POAM process. So I worked through the POAM process, right? So I was like, you know what? I installed a CAD service at my previous job, but I said, you know what? Let me really see how that whole process works, right? How do I look at CVEs? How do I match CVEs with, some of the IAVAs that come out and looking at the vulnerabilities from that standpoint? So it just became one of those things where I was just basically grabbing and pulling information from all the different entities that we had. So from that point, I was able to take that information and go to another company where we was dealing with the DMZ, and that was interesting. From each job that I went to is that you had to learn the system, right? And I'm even realizing that now is that, you know what, Osasu, how much did you understand the system? And we're going to talk about it more because really the state of being an ISO or the climate currently is, do you understand the technology and can you explain this to stakeholders, leadership at a very high level, right? Because I understood some of the technologies, the systems that we were dealing with, but can I personally say I was able to explain it at a high level? Probably not. But that was somewhat of my journey. Start off as an engineer, then I was part of a big team doing ISO work, and then the rest was kind of history.
That's a long journey. I'm gonna go into a little bit of my journey, how I got into the space. As a lot of people knows, for me, I was in college, and at first I was doing a criminal justice major, and then I just stuck with that. But I always wanted to get into tech. Me and O definitely talked about it a long time ago. So as I was trying to get into tech, I had to get my Security Plus. It took me like 2-3 years just to get that Security Plus. But in the meantime, I got my master's. So I got my master's. I'm like, hey, I'm about to go get all these jobs. I'm gonna get every job in the world. But then I didn't get no jobs, because I just had my master's degree. They talked to me, but they were like, do you get your certification? They act like the master's didn't exist. So eventually I got my Security Plus. I ended up losing the job, and I got my Security Plus. And throughout that process of getting my Security Plus, I still couldn't get a job because I was applying to everything. So I was talking to Osasu, and he told me, why don't you apply for ISSO? Basically what you did in college and what you did as a PM is how you became an ISSO. And I was like, okay. So I just changed my resume up to see what he's doing. And then I used the stuff I went to in class. And then eventually I became an information system security officer. And at the time, when I took on the role, it was a lot going into it. I didn't understand what the position was. There's a lot of documentation, understanding topics, terminologies. And I really didn't understand the role. And it kind of
a lot of acronyms too.
Acronyms. It was like, and to the audience, I know y'all hear all these acronyms. You hear a WSUS, you hear IAVA, you hear a CR, you hear all these PKI. You're like, why we have to hear all these acronyms? And it's just a lot. And then you're hearing all these people talk about different things, talk about cyber, and like we talking about the systems. Do you understand the system? How does it work? And this is kind of gonna go into the next portion is, what do you actually do as an ISSO, and what is the current state? When we came in, it was 5 years ago. So at that state, it was a certain thing we had to do. And I'm gonna let O talk about what you have to do as an ISSO when you first start off. And this is 5 years ago.
Right. So before, if you're looking at like the day-to-day, being an ISO, a lot of it is conversations with leadership, conversations with engineers, conversation with stakeholders, because essentially you serve as the middleman, right? So as an ISO, you are solely responsible, in a sense, for the compliance of the system, right? So everything really points down to you, and that's why I brought up the acronyms, because there's so many acronyms that you need to know. For example, an authority to operate. If you don't secure ATO, you cannot use that system that you are essentially trying to secure or to keep in compliance. And that falls on the ISO, right? So you have all these different things to make sure that your system is secure or in compliance, right? You got STIGs, right? And these are basically DoD mandates just to make sure that the servers, applications, network devices are in compliance with DoD standards in regards to the configurations, right? So you can use things such as SCAP scan, right? So you use the SCAP scan tool, import that into the STIG. Now, typically, that's a manual check, and we're going to talk about automation and how things are shifting from the manual process into becoming more of a automated process. But man, we used to, especially as an engineer, I used to look at that stuff one by one, and you can get about probably, I don't know, like 30 to 40 different STIG IDs that you have to go through, right? And I used to do that with another colleague, and that used to take some time. So as an ISO, mind you, we have to pass this off to engineers. They have to do the work. You got to make sure that you have a good rapport with the engineers because most of that stuff gets imported into EMAS. And EMAS basically gives you more of a temperature check of what your system looks like from a security standpoint, right? So if you want to know, okay, because it has the CIA, and we just talked about it. It has the security level of your particular system. It has all these different things that tells you from a security standpoint exactly where your system is, right? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? And you get a good snapshot from EMAS. So a lot of these things get imported into there. You also have to do ACAS. You get ACAS scans that come from the different production sites, right? Because you have the lab, and I advise anybody who's an ISO to work in the lab because you get to work alongside with engineers, and you're able to be a sponge and to learn so much information from them. Because again, knowing the technology, knowing the system that you're trying to secure is important. It's like going into a house. You know your house. You know what you need to secure your home. But if you go into another person's home, you don't necessarily know the home or know where everything is at in the home. How are you going to secure it? So you have to secure your home, and you have to look at it from that perspective. So that's the same thing. So you have production sites, and they normally are the ones, where you get your ACAS results from, right? And the lab and the production sites normally have to mirror each other in regards to, okay, we have this ACAS vulnerability or plugin that has populated. We have to make sure that it's addressed in the lab and then it's pushed up to production. So we typically do those every week. So that was an ongoing process for ISOs. And then you got POAMs, right? Now, and Chris knows this, right? Not everything gets fixed right away. Some things can break the system, and you'll hear that a lot from engineers. Hey, we can't fix this because it's going to do X, Y, and Z, or it's going to break the system. And some things just take a long time because it may be documentation related, right? And we're going to talk about RMF documentation. It may be a particular plugin that they just can't fix at the moment. There's an array of, it even may be a DoD order or executive order that gets released that you have to address, right? So there's so many things that can cause a POAM needing to be created, right? And typically, POAMs, they can be short term, it can be long term, depending on what it is. But one thing that you never want to do, and when I was at ISO, it was always emphasized to us, never kick the can down the road, because POAMs are always getting created, but they never get addressed. And these are one of the reasons why a lot of employers, they're trying to go into a more automated process, because if we're creating POAMs and we're not addressing it, it becomes an issue, right? So there's so many different things, documentation, writing documentation. Chris is probably one of the most phenomenal ISOs when it comes to just writing documentation and making sure we have the right documentation in place, because that's also giving you like clear evidence. It's like a body of work of what your system is and how to secure your system, or to just make sure that your system is in compliance. So it tells you a lot about your system. Kind of look at it like a vehicle inspection, right? If you have a report of a vehicle inspection, it tells you everything that's wrong with your car, and it also tells you about your car itself. So kind of look at it like that. But the day-to-day ISO work, again, you're the main liaison between leadership, stakeholders, and the engineers, right? They rely on you to make sure that we are in compliance and this system that we are owning or managing is secure. All right.
Hey, hey, Professor O. How you doing, man? Professor O. Let me just shout out to some people that said something in the chat. We got Richard Campbell, who says tuning in from Florida. How you doing, Richard? Thank you for tuning in. We got Samuel Aliba. He's from Ontario, Canada. Thank you, Antonio, for
Shout
tuning
out
in.
Samuel from
I'm
Canada.
Samuel. I'm sorry, Samuel. I'm sorry. Shout out to Samuel. And he's coming from LinkedIn too. We got Kiana. She said, I'm tuning in from DC. Hey, Kiana, how you
Welcome to
doing?
DC.
We got Osasu. There's another Osasu.
What?
Is your
We got
cousin
another salsa? My
Osasu
bro,
in Marabi? I can't say your name right. I'm sorry, but yeah, is your
my
brother.
brother from another, but from the same tribe.
What's your tribe, oh?
The Edo tribe.
Edo. Okay, shout out to the Edo tribe.
Awesome, man.
We got Adalis. Thank you for taking the time, for fellas. Much appreciate. Much appreciate you for tuning in. Appreciate
You're
you.
welcome, Adalis.
And then we got Octavia Leon tuning in from Tucson, Arizona. Shout out to Tucson, Arizona. We're going. And then we also have username 8281. I'm only 1 minute and 1 minute 11. I appreciate y'all doing it live. Thanks for. And he says any ISSOs, USSF ISSOs here. If there are any other ISSOs in here, say something. And then we got Osasu's cousin.
Edo in the building, baby.
Edo in the building.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I agree with a lot of things O said. That's kind of what the job is. I'm gonna just tell you a little bit from my perspective, how all that stuff fits in. So when I came in being an ISSO, a lot of the day, and especially in the government space, is to get an ATO, right? Authority to operate, and O knows. So, and we're gonna, before I even get to the ATO, I'm gonna break down everything y'all need to know, so we can lead up to that. Okay. So, and a lot of the things that lead up in the government space, especially when it comes to ATO, is you just got to check boxes. And this is when I first got in my field. It's like you got to check these boxes to get ATO. And it seems like for a lot of government systems, a lot of working in this space, your whole goal is to get an ATO. And ATO is good and all, but an ATO, authority to operate, is just getting an authority to operate. Sometimes you're not actually implementing what you're saying you're doing. Sometimes the documentation is saying one thing, but the implementation is another thing. Sometimes your tracking of poems is not up to date. Sometimes your controls are not fully tested, and you don't know if it's actually implemented. So a lot of stuff is all over the place. And then sometimes you don't have the best communication with stakeholders. So if you don't have the best communication with stakeholders, or they're not trying to work with you, sometimes it can affect the actual job. But just so people can understand what the job is, and this ties into GRC in general, not just in the risk management framework phase. But I'm about to turn into Professor Chris for a second. But
please take the floor, my brother.
Yeah, but just so people can understand, in the government space, FISMA is a government body that created. They said, "Hey, we have to secure our systems in the government." That's the governing body, FISMA. O knows what it is. We all, we just for people that don't understand. So throughout that process, the government response was we have NIST. NIST is the framework that secures government systems. They created implementation guidance with NIST 853, CUI guidance, NIST 800-171, categorization guidance, FIPS 199, just those documentations. And throughout that process, if you want to check out NIST 837, they created steps, the 7 steps of RMF. And O knows this. So the 7 steps of RMF that people don't understand, if you don't understand, this is the steps that you follow when you're securing a government system. The first thing for y'all that don't understand, you got to prepare a system. What is a prepare a system? When you prepare a system, right, you got to think of it as you're a general manager. Or think of it as a football coach. You're a football coach. You got to pick your team. So you're going to get your wide receivers. You're going to get your other coaches, your supporting staff. Make sure you have all your governing bodies. Make sure you have different plays. Make sure you have your documentation. So you're gonna prepare a system. That's what you're doing. The second step that people that may understand, you're categorizing your system. Those that are in cybersecurity have did a security plus. You got you're gonna get the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, availability. So you're categorizing your system depending on what it is, depending if it's an AI system, a cloud system, but you're gonna give it that. You're gonna give it low, medium, moderate, high, or sometimes it could be all high. So you're categorizing the system. You can check out FIPS 199. You know, to those to the ISSOs that's listening, that's the documentation. The next thing you got to do is select the controls. You're selecting the controls based on NIST 853. Those controls based on NIST 853, depending on what your system, you selecting what controls. Okay, so you selected the controls. It doesn't mean you're actually implementing. Implementing is you're making sure you're actually saying you're doing what you're saying you do. So you're going to go into the next stage, which is implementing. So you're going to be implementing what those controls are, whether it's through STIGs, whether it's through documentation. You're creating diagrams. You're implementing to show that you're actually doing what you're saying you're doing. You're showing evidence. The next couple of steps you're gonna do is you're gonna start assessing the controls. You're gonna do a self-assessment to see if you're actually implementing. Sometimes people do it. Sometimes people are not actually checking, but that's another issue with the current RMF space right now. Okay. Then after you do that, you get into authorization. Authorization is when you build everything up. You're testing your controls. You're getting your STIGs. You're getting your documentation. You're building all that up. And then you're going to send a whole change request or a package up to the another team, which can be the RME team. What's the RME stand for? The remediation team.
I think, I thought it was the risk management.
Yeah,
experts. Is that what it is?
Yeah, you're going to send it all right. Basically, depending on what organization you're in, you're going to send all that whole package. You're going to make sure you got your diagrams, your controls, your poems. Sometimes all your mitigations, everything that you have with the system, you're sending it up to a third-party team. It can be different teams. It could be a risk management team, a risk management team. Some team that you're gonna send it up to them. It's gonna go through stages when you send it up to them. It's gonna go from your compliance team to your information system security manager to your security control representative to your SCAR to your authorizing official, and the authorizing official gives you a final say so, hey, is this ATO extended? It's going to get extended for 2 or 3 years. Sometimes it won't get extended. Sometimes your system won't be approved. And it goes through all these phases. And throughout this entire RMF process, a lot of things are being, and I noticed little holes. Like, for example, how do you know the poem is actually compliant? Sometimes the STIGs are not up to date because you're not having a continuous baseline on what the STIGs are. Sometimes the controls, something changes. Sometimes it's not compliant. You won't know. Sometimes documentation is not updated because multiple people are touching it. You don't have an original document. There's so many issues with the current RMF process, but it's a system that has been going for years. And then another thing with these packages, sometimes it could take almost a year to get an ATO. And throughout that time, your continuous monitoring, I forgot to say that phase. After authorization, you're continuously monitoring that. And you're having constant melodies to make sure those remediations are done. But it's just the process to get an ATO can take 18 months, 14 months. And what that does is, to a lot of people that are not understanding, it slows down everything. It slows down implementation. It slows down what we do, and it slows down the team. So sometimes things might not get done. They don't think sometimes it can appear you're not doing your work because it's just you got to go through so many approvals just to get it, and even to get an extension. So that leads to what we're going to get into next is, okay, we have all these issues. And then also, from your perspective, what are some of the issues that's currently wrong with the RMF process from your perspective?
I think you kind of pointed that out, is outdated information. Documentation is outdated. You got to think about it, and we've dealt with this before. We're constantly getting change requests. System goes through a tech refresh. They're changing out old hardware for new. Software is getting updated all the time. And then what happens is we don't update the documentation, right? And I'm not saying me and you ain't doing that because, we do what we do. But I'm just saying these are some of the things that are happening where technology is constantly evolving, right? And we talked about it. Even if we're looking at the climate of our current country right now, even dealing with the Department of War, right? There are a lot of things that is causing our country right now to take security a lot more seriously, right? And we know, like, even the owl, right, owl 6 and owl 7, a lot of AI tools are, and I think the DoD is trying to make a mandate where most of these tools are going into owl 6 and owl 7, right? Primarily owl 7. So if technology is constantly evolving, I mean, more things are coming or are coming out where we have to make sure these things are secure, then you're constantly going to get updates to your system. So as ISOs, what typically happens is the continuous monitoring, and that's why the DoD wants to do cATOs, because they want to make sure that we're in compliance, not just before we got to turn in an ATO, because that's when we always do the work, right? But they want to make sure that that work is being done. If you get a 2-year, 3-year, a 6-month ATO, they just want to make sure that you're doing the work to make sure everything is in compliance. So more automated tools are now being enforced, or they're trying to drive more automated tools to make sure that things are actually in compliance. I was looking at something that said, for example, like the Air Force, they had like a system that monitors like flight operations. So now they're leaning towards doing more machine learning and AI to continuously analyze the network traffic, right? So that kind of is mitigating the issue of having to wait until the last minute to make sure that things are actually in compliance. And I think that's some of the things that we are now shifting to, is we can't wait to make sure this system is secure. Even if, and like you said, right, because even if you say that you're doing all of these things on documentation, is that actually true? Right. And I think that's one thing that we have to keep in mind, and everybody should keep in mind. You have to constantly assess, address, and analyze your system to say, is this ready to be packaged up and sent up for ATO on this in this given moment? And I think you have to think now and not wait until your ATO is about to expire.
Agreed. We got some comments. We got Jose Rodriguez. That's why every org should have a QA. Usually that should be the ISM. I agree with you.
Yeah, but go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead. I know you about to go with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, because a lot of responsibility does fall on the ISO, and obviously, the ISMs are kind of the ones that are overseeing a lot of things, but most of the legwork is being done by the ISO. And it's not to negate the work of the ISM at all, but if you have a team of ISO, you just have one ISO on a given program or system that they're managing, they are normally the ones that have to send up the package, right? So if you have to send up the ATO for it to go through the approval chain, that is your responsibility. Because I think the only thing the ISM do is just check it off, look at it, make sure that you did everything that you need to do, and that's about it. And sometimes ISMs, and you know this, Chris, they're managing different programs. So they have a lot of responsibility on themselves.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Oh, like with ISMs, their job is to manage multiple programs. It's very rare
Right.
that one ISM is managing one program. Very rare.
Very rare.
And
Very rare.
a lot of the times, from my experience, and I know I had the same experience. Sometimes you're sending stuff to them, and sometimes they don't understand what's going on because they're doing so much work, and sometimes they can push back on something or make a deal. Sometimes it can get into a big deal about something, and they just don't know what's going on, and that's the
Yeah.
truth. And then two, I feel like ISMs it should be QA no matter what. So I think as a team,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
compliance
I
team
mean,
may
and
do.
that's kind of one of the reasons why you do peer reviews. But again, that's speaking to if you're, because some programs there may just only be one ISO on the team. So I mean, you kind of have to peer review your own work. I mean, that makes sense. But if you are with a team of ISOs, then you should be doing the QA and not the ISM. And even the ISM does the final check, but you should make sure that everything is ready, packaged, and is good to go before they even lay eyes on it.
Yeah. We got Joshua. He said you're right. We got Jose. He also said most orgs are not an asset. Yeah, a lot of people don't even know what common mean, which is continuous monitoring. It's a continuous
That's true.
monitoring plan. So,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah, most orgs not even on, and I agree. Most teams don't even know what that is, or they don't. Maybe sometimes they might not even have that in place. A continuous monitoring. It's very like sometimes like with documentation, some programs don't even update their documentation for years or don't even touch it.
Yeah, that is true. We've experienced that ourselves.
Yeah, and then he said GRC engineering is the way. Yeah, we're gonna get into that too. GRC engineering is the way. We'll see with what's gonna go on with GRC engineering, especially in the government space. But I do think, from what I've been seeing, I've been seeing a lot of job positions. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get into GRC engineering to automate the process, and we're gonna get into that. I did want to touch on one more thing. Max said, "Is ATO a abbreviative of authorization to operate?" Yep, that's
Yep.
what it means.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what O was talking about, he was talking about some of the issues. I do want to tap into another issue. Uh, so with all this information we talked about, a lot of this stuff is done manually. Um, EMAS and other compliance tools, they do have automated ways to do things. For example, they have automated ways to create poems. They have automated ways to text controls. But to do it is sometimes with those automations that's in the government, it takes a long time to figure those out. And sometimes it can be hard. Another automation issue is they don't have a lot of for STIGs. There's no automation. For a lot of times STIGs you're doing them manually. You use SCAP
Yeah,
tools,
that's true.
but sometimes you don't know what your baseline is.
Mm,
And
that's
another,
a valid point.
yeah, I agree. And then another thing is the, also too reports. Sometimes we have to do a lot of reports. If there is a way to automate the process, that would help too. Versus ACAS scans to get all that to your various stakeholders, and also government is how you say modernization. There's a lot of modernization.
Modernization. Yeah, modernization.
There's a lot of
That's a tongue
modernization.
twister.
You said tongue twister.
Hmm.
There's a lot of modernization in the government space, but say for example you're getting AI, you're not going to get a powerful AI tool. It's not going to
No.
really help you. Um, and that leads to another thing too with the cloud compliance. We should have been started getting into cloud. I think cloud is becoming more popular. We should have been did those technologies, and
Mm,
then that's where the government's going. And then so what the issues coming now? There's the government sees that.
yeah.
They see that. They didn't see it wasn't a problem 5 years ago, but they see it now. They see all this AI tools coming out. You got cloud. Cloud been here for a while. It's not a new technology, but sometimes the government can be old with those different things. And what happens now? You have a lot of companies that are private sector companies. You got the Googles, you got the Groks, you got all these AI companies. You got all these people that's trying to get into the government because they see there's money there. But the thing,
Mm,
a lot of people always tell me, "Oh yeah, AI going to take our jobs." It's not, because you got so many people that want to get in the government. So with them coming into the government, and you have different people that's in play. You got people over the Department of War cyber program. You got a lot of people. So what they're trying to do is they created things like Swift to help automate the process because it's taking too long, and
mm.
just to get the government more update with technology. So um, that's where we're at now. Like we're trying to get that stuff in the government, and that's why we're monitoring the process. And that's kind of what's going on now. Did you have anything on that? Oh,
No, that's absolutely true. Like even for example, you think about something like infrastructure as a code, right? So that gives I guess engineers the ability to manage servers, cloud system, networks, and infrastructure as a code. Instead of you manually going through configuration files and changing settings, they basically have a template that they use in order for the code to do those things themselves, right? So you have something like that could raise servers, configure firewalls, set permissions, building networks, and things of that nature. So if they're shifting towards that, I hate to say it, then certain jobs then become obsolete. So it's even Ansible. I think Ansible is also something that they use on Red Hat in order for them to, if they have multiple servers and they need to patch something, or they need to make an upgrade, they will use Ansible to get to all those different servers. I believe that's how Ansible works. But those are certain like automation tricks or automation ways that a lot of companies, or even the climate of ISO work is shifting to. So those are things that we need to keep in mind. If they have something like infrastructure as a code, and all you have to do is use a particular template, and it does all the work for you, that just makes the automation process even more desirable, you know?
Yeah, we're going. Hey, that's speed number fact. So we got Jose, evaluate Stiggs. Got you. Richard, trying to get into the GovTech space with ISO RMF and the baseline of cybersecurity. Hey, if you're trying to get into the government space, you're trying to learn about ISO, make sure you check out RMF Academy. We got a cohort the May 25th. So make sure you get into that. We have an EMAS emulator, and we have all that tech, everything you want to know is going to be in that course. So make sure you check me out.
Yeah. My man turned into an advertisement. That's awesome, man.
Hey, I got.
Hey, Richard, check him out, man. Check him out.
Hey, we got a discount code right now, RMF 25. So make sure you check it out. Get 25% off. Just to remind you. But we're gonna get into that. Username 8281. Do these live more. Yeah, we're gonna eventually create a compliance community. We're gonna do a lot of lives like this. So you definitely, once it comes out, make sure you check it out. We're definitely gonna keep doing this every week. Yeah, so just check it out.
If you want it, you got it.
Yeah. He said, if you want it.
That's funny.
Yeah, okay. You need to use AI as an amplifier. I agree. We're going to get into that definitely. Stay on. We're definitely going to get into that too. So, and that leads to what we're saying. RMF as we have it now, paper compliance, what we have right now is dead. It's dying. Yeah, it's dying because a lot of the times, and a lot of the people that in the space, it's just paper compliance. It's just checking off boxes, and a lot of the people that been doing it, again, sometimes don't even know the system. There's been times I didn't know the system fully, and I'm just doing my compliance job, but it's not. That's dead. We're gonna leave it, and it's gonna be gone very soon.
you know what's is interesting, right? Because like before, employers wasn't expecting you to be that technical. Now, interviewers, or let's just say employers, when they are interviewing people, they're saying that interviews are bad, right? Because they're noticing that the people they interview don't necessarily know the system, right? They don't understand the basics of cloud. They don't understand the fundamentals of networking, right? They don't understand how APIs work. They don't understand things about the cloud and Kubernetes, containerization. Like this is the now, right? So just to have the basic knowledge in those things, or at least to have that attached as a skill set, interviewers are expecting to hear that. And even if they're not even asking the question, for you to even speak to that, I think it helps. They're looking for that. And like you said, Chris, it's no more just, going down the checklist, putting a check on it, say, hey, we're good to go, guys, let's go. They're not doing that no more. All right. They don't want those type of ISOs in the job. And some companies may still, depending on where they are, because not everything has advanced to the point where, and we talked about it, right, Chris? Like AI right now is still a tool. It's a very helpful tool, but it's not at the point where it's really taking anybody's jobs, like at a very large scale. Now it is helpful. And even if you think about in the government, they're slow on a lot of things. So they're creating their own AI tools currently, but it's not really, and we used them before. They're not that good at all. Now you needed to help you spell something, they'll probably help you with that. But that's really about it. Barely. Yeah, man. But that's kind of where it's at. You gotta develop your skills, and I'm learning that myself. So I'm not speaking at anybody. I'm really I'm speaking with you, trying to let you know these are the things that I'm learning myself through my own experience.
Yeah, and if you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn, just make sure you're saying something. Make sure you put some questions down. It's the best time to ask it. We're gonna go. We're gonna go really in depth. We're gonna finish this. However long it takes. It probably take a couple hours, but just make sure if you're good with that. Oh, you good?
I'm good. I'm here, baby.
Yeah, so we're gonna make sure you're asking some questions because this is gonna be a real deep dive. And like O was saying, oh yeah, sorry, Abbas was saying tuning in from Houston. Shout out to Houston.
Abbas, shout out to you, man.
Yeah, so like O was saying, like, and even I'm learning this myself to be better at it. They're not wanting you to check boxes. They want you to explain the R. If you're going to do an RMF job, number one, you got to be able to explain what you're doing. You got to explain what implementation is. You got to explain why are we doing STIGs. Sometimes you got to kind of explain to the bare minimum what is a risk. How would you evaluate a risk? Some people don't know what that is. What would you do if you're actually testing a control? Most people will say, hey, we're just going to go into EMAS, make it compliant. That's it. No, it's more in depth than that. Let me give you an example. If I'm evaluating a control, you're going to read the evidence. You got to use terms that they understand. For example, CCIs were basically checks for the control. You're going to say you're going to review the CCI. You're going to evaluate what it's asking, which, after you evaluate what it's asking, then you're going to check the evidence that's already there. The evidence is not already there, then you got to go to your engineer. If it's documentation, you got to update it. If it's implementation, you got to go to engineers to see if it's already been remediated and get evidence. If you didn't get no evidence, meaning a screenshot or them showing you and showing some proof, you got to create a POAM. You create a POAM. After you create the POAM, you got to talk about how you create a POAM. What is the purpose of it? How do you do the impact? And then after that, you create the POAM. What do you do next? You got to track it to completion. Let the stakeholders know. You got to go into really in depth what RMF is, because if you can't explain to what it is, they don't want people like that. And then also too, with a lot of these jobs, what O was talking about, you got to speak to the technology. For example, cloud native. What are some cloud native tools? What is cloud native? What are some basic cloud native tools? Cloud Trail, Cloud Watch. They want to know what is an SRG STIG? Why do you have to do an SRG STIG? Does it apply? And like O was talking about the impact levels, depending on the level, like it's top secret CUI, then you have to adjust that SRG STIG to that CUI. I'm sorry, not to the CUI, to that environment. You also got to know about zero trust now. A lot of things you got to be able to explain with zero trust, which is very simple. Don't trust nobody, verify everybody. But
never
you got to
trust,
explain.
always verify.
But you got to explain how, give you some examples. And then another thing they're going to ask you too is like, tell me about the inheritance of a cloud environment. And with the newer things that's coming out now, for people to understand, with AI environments, they got IL7. That's on top secret environment. And then you also, with those, you got to talk about SBOMs. What's going on with the new Rev 5 NIST guidance, it talks about supply chain and privacy. You can look it up on NIST. That's what they're talking about. So a lot of the times with AI tools, you don't even know what technology is in the AI. So what they're creating now is something called SBOMs. They always been there. Basically, SBOMs is something to show you what technology is in it. So you got to understand what SBOMs are. Containers are becoming more and more popular. At one point, I didn't even know how to scan a container. They have different scanning tools. They have Gripe to scan containers. What the overall, what I'm trying to tell everybody is being an ISSO, and not even just being an ISSO, the way that it's going in GRC in general, you got to be able to talk the talk, and where it's going towards the very near future in the next 2 to 3 years is getting to the point where they want ISSOs to do everything. And I understand that you got to have some type of least privilege to kind of have checks and balances. But if you're just you're the running away ISSO that just does the regular stuff, that's not what they want you to do anymore. They want you to really understand. And if you can code, um, in our field, information system security engineers are kind of the mix between GRC engineering, risk management engineering is all the same. So that's kind of where they at right now. So that's where we're going, and that's kind of the future of what GRC is. Oh, what you think? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. Just to even give an example, I remember I was working on a particular program, and typically, engineers have a very high level understanding of what they're working on, whether they're sysadmin, network engineer, right, or anything. They typically aren't the ones that are having those type of conversations with stakeholders, with the government program managers, right? Leadership in general. And basically, what Chris is saying, that you should be able to speak to any issue that engineers have brought to your attention. Because again, you're normally the one that is creating that or filling that gap between what's going on with the system, where the engineers are able to speak to it and they understand it. But typically with engineers, they're not able to communicate in a way, and sometimes even with me, like I gotta ask a lot of questions to really understand, okay, what actually is the issue here and why is this a risk, right? Because that's what you want to get down to. Why is this a risk? Because once I'm able to define and determine that, then it's my responsibility to now share this information with the stakeholders, with leadership, because they sometimes don't understand. And if they feel as though you don't understand or you're not confident or you don't know the system yourself, then what happens? They start to look at you as if you don't really know your stuff. Mm. So that's my thoughts on it. But Chris, you can keep talking. Hold on.
Yeah. So, and back to what O's saying, this is where the space is going. Everything is becoming automation. Everything is becoming, like we kind of touched on. We touched on Swift. We talked into a CAT, continuous ATO. What's going on is no longer paper. They want something that's constantly checking if everything is in compliance, and that can be hard too because you got stuff that's on prem. Sometimes you want to hurry and get some implementations that you got in your test environment, and you need to get this stuff done as soon as possible. But that's the space we're going to. We're going to a continuous ATO, and that's where we're getting at. And to get to that point where you even understand what a continuous ATO, or get to that point, you got to understand the basics, like we kind of broke down in the beginning.
Yeah,
Okay.
agree. We got some questions or some thoughts.
You want to read it? Oh,
Anyone with no IT experience should and wants to get into ISO work should start at the help desk and work yourself up to get that technical background. I agree 1,000%.
yeah,
Jose,
I agree
you need
too.
you need 5 stars for that comment.
Yeah, like when I first got into space, I was straight into ISSO. I never worked a help desk. O, on the other hand, actually was an engineer. So when I got into it, I didn't understand a lot of what's going on. I didn't I studied it on the security class. But I didn't understand. But what I will tell to you, for a lot of people that's watching, cybersecurity is getting harder and harder to get into. Hey,
Mhm.
start the help desk. You never know where that can go. You can be a system engineer, and there's some people that have a good career. You make the same amount of money.
You
So
know what, something that you said earlier, Chris,
what?
and I don't know if people remember, is when you mentioned one of the most prominent jobs that people may overlook is being a data center technician.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best positions. And for example, when I worked at a particular company and they had hardware techs, hardware technicians know the system in and out. And typically, what happens when you start off as a hardware tech, they normally move up to become the network engineers, the Windows admins, the Linux admins, because they already know the system from a hardware perspective. So just know you knowing it from the outside, and then all you really being told to do, okay, just learn the system from the inside, and it's like everything just clicks for them. So to Jose's point, I think um, being a desk, what is not a desk, but a service
Data center?
desk help,
Okay.
yeah, help desk technician or a data center technician or a hardware technician. Those are really good jobs to kind of get your feet wet.
Shout out to him. 5-star comment.
Mhm.
Thank you. We have Mac Shakir 1437. I'm starting an affiliation program with my company for InfoSec compliance analysts. Wish me luck. Shout out to you, Mac. I'm happy for you. And
Praying for
and
you,
if,
Mac.
yeah, and if you're on live, if you're on live, make sure you like the video. Make sure you comment. If you're dropping in, just say something. Say hi. How you doing? Have any questions? Have any thoughts? Just keep it going. We just want to make sure you're here. And when y'all say something, it keeps us and keep us going and give us energy. So yeah, okay. So he said, "Thanks, God bless you all." Okay, God bless you too, mother. Okay, so okay, we talked about it. We broke down the beginning of what an ISO is. We talked about how we got there. We talked about some of the issues with being an ISO, some of the AI automation, things like that. And we also talked about the continuous ATO and where it's going to a point where it's technical. You need to understand systems. You got to be able to speak to it, and your communication skills have to get to a point where you can talk to a baby so that they can understand and take you seriously.
Agreed.
So where we're going at is AI. So AI is coming into the forefront. Me and O knows that. Hold up one second. Max said, "God bless," and then he said, "When it comes to technical, what is that? TP? What is it? TPRM? How AI orchestrate the discovery process? Can you break down what a TPRM is? I'm not sure. Is it a technical program manager or is it? I'm not sure."
I've heard that term. I've seen that term before. TPRM.
Yes, yeah. So, what's your thoughts on AI? Um, oh, you know, we got all these and we got all these AI companies coming. Where do you think do you think there got to be a new position created for just for ISOs to manage AI, or do you think it's going to be integrated in?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be integrated in. I think like anything, it's an expectation where we just have to learn how this fits in when it comes to the whole compliance approval chain or checkbox, as you will. AI is still pretty new. We're still learning. You know, we're still learning what it means because I think AI deals with things like hallucination ingestion or something like that. And you also know that depending on the AI, it can also deal with biases and stuff like that. So, you know, when you have some of those things that can raise security concerns, it is up to us as ISOs to understand how that stuff works. But I think they do need to add another layer when it comes to this. And I think this AI is one of the things that we talked about because we need to understand that first before we can even secure it. Because to your point, Chris, you asked the question of what is risk. Well, what is risk in AI, right? Because again, I think we're still thinking of it from an offensive perspective because we love AI so much, but we're not thinking as to okay, how is AI actually being secured? And then that's where we really have to shift our mindset towards it.
I agree. Jose, he said another thing, like I have said before, the game that you are spitting is gold. When I got in the game, this wasn't available. Yeah, it's hard to get this information. Uh, a lot of people gatekeep this information. To be honest with you, so it's even when I got into the game, it was hard to get any of this information. Now, if you go on YouTube right now, it's hard to find anything. So
You know, Chris, I always look back because you know we always say the way that we got into being ISO was far different, right? Because I had a whole team, a whole slew of individuals that was willing to assist and help me, and you was really in there by yourself, and you had to get it out the mud. So, to Jose's point, this is so valuable to somebody who currently may be in your position right now.
yeah, most definitely. And if you want more of this valuable information, go on rmfacademy.io. Hey, I gotta advertise. I learned from most people. You gotta advertise. Hey, we spend game. But if you want some more information, I got you.
My man said, "Forget an ad break."
Okay, we have Mac. He said third party risk assessment. So we're gonna go back
Yeah.
to his question. He says when it comes to third party risk assessment, um, how AI how AI will orchestrate the discovery process. Um,
You talking
I
about like
don't
3PAO, like the assessment?
just the assessors that assess a system, something like that. Like even like those
Yeah.
auditors, they do a site visit or audit. They're gonna come and
Mm.
review your systems. I think what he's saying is how are you going to use AI to kind of assist you when doing this process?
Mm. Would you use AI to assist you in that process?
You could if it's approved AI, but what I will tell you is
Right.
this, Mac. A lot of what the GRC space is getting to a point where where containers and all these systems are going to start being used. And what that means is once we start using, it's going to be a DevOps. Maybe the position is slowly changing to like more of a DevOps position. So when it gets to that
Yeah,
point,
that's
it's
true.
gonna be a lot of the times you can't lie about what you say you have because with S bombs, checking your supply chain, seeing what's in your system, seeing an updated diagram that change all the time, it probably get to a point where your diagrams are to a point where it updates automatically. That's where we're going. It'll be much easier to do an audit. To be honest with you, STIGs are getting to a point where they're easier to audit. So that's where we're
Yeah.
going to, and you're just going to use it. Same thing with ISSO work. It's going to just be a more of a probably more technical position, and it's probably more it's probably faster than it used to be.
I think documentation is probably gonna be the first to automate.
Yeah,
And first to automate, I mean, it's probably going to be high on the priority list when things do become more automated. Just because documentation that takes a long time, man.
it will help, but I think implementation is more important, though. I think if as long as things are actually being implemented better,
Yeah,
that's probably. But the documentation is easy. They got so many tools to create documentation.
they do.
Yeah. What was he talking about? What point we was on? We was talking about AI, right? Okay.
Mm.
So yeah. So we was talking about AI. We was talking about. So we was just talking about earlier. I think O was saying like how AI is going to change the compliance process. So what I'm saying in the compliance process, you need to understand AI framework, the NIST AI framework, to get a baseline understanding of what's going on. Once you get the baseline, I think what they're going to do is start integrating it to EMAS, and then they're going to start giving it like an AI overlay. So the AI
Mm.
overlay will automatically select controls that are applied to your system. And I think that's how we're going to go. And I think we're going to get to a point where we're going to be using a lot more containers. We're going to use a lot more S bombs to check the supply chain of those systems to make sure you're checking everything, to make sure you have the things that you're having. But with AI right now, a lot of people talk about the benefits of AI, right? I don't see not too many people talk about the issues with AI, and I think that's going to create a lot of field with risk management with an AI system, even with GRC. Even if you go on Indeed right now, type in AI GRC or whatever, you'll see a lot of those jobs pull up. And to be
Mm.
honest with you, a lot of these jobs don't have a set in stone way to risk accept these AI systems. And then another thing that's going to be popularized very soon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with shadow AI. Are you familiar with shadow AI?
I think you brought it up before, but you might as well explain it to the audience.
So to the audience, I'm sorry, am I lagging?
Yeah, a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah. 1 second.
Gotta
Oh,
go,
you can go ahead. I'll
gotta,
come back.
gotta go pay that Wi-Fi bill. Any other comments?
No, I'm good now. It's good. It's good. So what shadow AI is when employees, and a lot of people don't do this. A lot of people don't know it's a bad thing. Sometimes your AI at your job can be not good. It's not good at all. And a lot of the times you have certain AI tools that you're familiar with or that you use. So what they'll
Hmm.
do is they'll take the information from your job, and I think a lot of people seen this on the news. People will get in trouble for like government agencies because they'll use information in their government and put into like an open AI outside. And these are heads of cybersecurity that are getting in trouble for that. So what you'll do is you take the information, you go use your own AI, and it's an AI system that you're using, but it's not approved. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's kind of what's going. So that's going to be another problem. But again, AI is going to be integrated in. I think with the cloud compliance process, they have a new impact level with top secret systems with IL7 that's
Hmm.
coming out. And also NIST is partnering with a lot of AI systems to kind of get a proper assessment of what's going on with these AI systems. NIST and a lot of government agencies are partnering with a lot of these private sector companies to integrate with AI. So this is not going nowhere. This is the future. So if you're understanding what AI is, how to risk assessment, even coming up with your own way to talk about why AI is bad. And again, a lot of people use AI systems. I see people put their bank information in AI, their sometimes their whole life in AI, and they're not understanding that you're giving your system too much access. AI is not 100%. Sometimes it can erase the information that you put into it, like databases and things like that. So AI risk management, AI, GRC, all that is going to be the future, and the technology is not going where in the government. The government hasn't found a way. They have it in the government space, but you still have to get it approved constantly. So,
yeah, and you got ISOs that are managing those AI tools that are being used in the government. So I'm pretty sure they have a wealth of knowledge themselves since that's what they're doing.
Jose
Jose,
said it will be it will all be easier with OPA, Rego, and OSCO. Okay, that's your cousin, oh.
yo, I saw some number two. I can't say you number one, brother. I see self-hosted local AI picking up a lot of steam in the AI enthusiast space. Do you think it will play a role in IT security, IT cybersecurity?
At some point, I mean, to secure those self-hosted systems, it can play a role. You could probably make some money with that, honestly. If you can create a self-hosted system, put people's AI systems in there, and make sure it's secure, things like that. It's always some that actually is a better. I would think that's something better to do, in my opinion, versus
Right,
putting it on your regular computer.
right.
I think anything. I think a lot of things. This space is new. A lot of people don't touch cybersecurity in the AI space. So I think if anybody get into it, it can grow. In my opinion.
I mean, I think that's even a launching pad to secure, government contracts too, because a lot of self-hosted AI tools, that can help you in that space as well. I know I worked on a program where they was trying to get a containerization scanning or vulnerability scanner up and running, but it was, you know, going through a lot of, challenges with that. But they did receive a lot of funding in order for them to get that tool authorized and used within the DoD network. So
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. Okay, so we're moving along. We talked about where the future is going. Also, I just want to kind of bring up when it comes to cloud compliance, it's another big thing that's going to be really big in the government space. A lot of jobs right now are hiring a lot of people to automate the cloud compliance process, whether it's automating privileged users, automating certain things. Cloud is definitely going to be a big thing in the space, a big topic in the space. It's old technology, but it's more newer to the government because making it secure for the government can take a long, long time. And that's to be honest with you, the cloud compliance process, that's a whole nother topic.
that's a beast.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother. I got to pull up diagrams and everything for that one. Okay, so another thing we want to touch on. Oh, like, what do you think that? What do you think the role of an ISO is going to be in the future? Do you think it's going to be more of an engineer, or do you think it's still going to be where it's at today?
Um, I'm a bit torn between it being or mirroring more of an engineer, so having more of a technical background. But I do think even when you're thinking about the GRC side, right? I think it's becoming more of a security advisory role, right? So if you're thinking about you are walking into a room of all these stakeholders and you have this system that is being presented or they have a ConOps and they're showing you, you are the person that's supposed to speak to, okay, how can we secure this system? So everybody is looking to you for that security advisory information to help them secure this system. Now that doesn't make you the most liked person in the room, but at the end of the day, your understanding of the system helps you advise what's best for the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think what you're trying to say is GRC compliance, the compliance space in general has become more of a security advisor, which is kind of what
Yeah,
the role already been.
it's like a consultant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to become more of a consultant role. A lot of people don't want to do it. I think with GRC in general, in the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to become more. If you're going to be in the hands and weeds, it's going to be more of a technical role. You're definitely going to learn how you're going to have to know how to do ACAS scans. Make sure you set up automations. Make sure you can automate stuff like documentation, automate stigs. I think that's where we're going, everything is automated, and you have to kind of get in the weaves to actually create things. And I think shout out to AJ Yon and some other people, but that's why they're creating these the next wave of GRC engineers because they
Hmm.
know they're making a lot of money doing that right now because it's not as prevalent. But what I will tell you to the audience, a lot of these recruiters are sending people information like this is what we're trying to do. We're done with the old way. We want more of HE. I've done interviews or I've lost opportunities because I wasn't on the more the technical side, you know.
Mm.
And again, technical is however you say it. I think being in cyber is technical, but meaning it, when I say technical, more of the hands-on, going into a system, creating stuff, closing out tickets, be able to speak to technology. But that in general, that's where the role is going. You got to know how to do that stuff, and if you don't know how to do that stuff, a lot of people that's in the field now, they've been getting by off of just doing compliance. It's no longer about compliance. It's still, I'm sorry, it's still about compliance, but what can you actually do? How do they
Mm.
know that you're actually can get into the system? A lot of system engineers don't respect ISOs because they like, okay, well, you don't do the actual work. You just tell me what to do. But we're helping each other.
Mm.
So that's why I think where the role is going.
We are helping each other.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I agree. But I totally agree with you, Chris, because that is typically the response that you do get from system admins. That's the response you get from network engineers. That's the response sometimes that you get from leadership as well. Is what can you actually do as opposed to just pushing a few buttons. And I'm not even saying that that's all that entails when it comes to an ISO, but having that technical experience does present or provide more value to yourself when you're on a particular program. Because if you can't speak to the technology, then how can you truly, and I've said this before, how can you secure what you're saying that you're trying to secure? Because you can create documentation, you can import stigs into emails, you can fill out an ATO form, but if you're not asking the question of, okay, what is this system? What is the risk of this system? Why do we need to secure this system? I think that's what employers are looking for because in a sense that brings more innovation, right? That lets us know that you actually care about what we're doing and you're not just a person that's saying no to everything just because you're trying to stick by the book. Not to say that you're not supposed to do that, but I think you have to bring another level of value to the program or to whatever system that you're managing. Because employers are tired of just guys or just employees in general who just know how to check boxes, but they don't necessarily know how to do anything else. And I think we understand, Chris, even in this field, you have to constantly elevate and evolve. You have to learn new technologies. You have to learn what's the now. And typically, what's the now is really what's the future. If you're only thinking about the now, then you're already too late. But I think it's essential that you continue to focus on, okay, what is the next step in the compliance space? But having that technical background, I think that gives you a lot of experience. And I just want to make this last point. When I was on a particular program, we had an ISSE who basically did a bulk of the work on our program because he knew the system. So he knew the documentation, he knew the POAN, how to do the POANs, he knew how to do STIGs, but he also knew the system as well. And let me tell you this, Chris, anytime we had an issue, we always went to him. And mind you, it's a team of about 8 or 9 of us, and he was the main person we went to when we didn't necessarily had the answer.
Yeah, you're just making yourself valuable, and they probably would never get rid of that man. He's gonna probably be
Hmm.
there. As long as he decides, if he try to leave, they're gonna give him some more money.
Right.
So we're gonna start talking about a little bit. So to the audience, I hope you got that information on that portion. But we're gonna just go into the market that we have currently, and we're gonna flush it out. So the market we have currently, everybody, the ISSO RMF role is not how it used to be. Again, when you're updating your resume and making sure that your resume is updated, you got to make sure that number one, you're actually putting what you have on your resume. Now you got to make, if you've done cloud compliance, you got to make sure it's on there. If you did zero trust, which most people do, explain how you do zero trust. You gotta kind of talk about the SCAP tools. Make sure you put everything, even if you work in the cloud, which cloud environment. What did you actually do as an ISO? Um, Mainly focus on implementation. Focus on that. And then also when you're preparing for an interview, you got to make sure that if you're preparing for an interview, you got to talk like you run it because they want
Mm,
experts now. I don't want to
mm,
hear, they want to hear you support. They don't want to see you did the steps 3 or 4 of the RMF process. They
mm,
want to see that you know what you can do and you don't need no help and you know how to appeal to stakeholders. And a lot of
mm,
these roles now, like, and this is just not even just in the government space. If you're working in GRC, this is what they want also. A lot of the stuff that's in risk management, a lot of private sector companies follow whatever is ISO. They do FedRAMP. They follow a lot of the stuff that they do in the government. So in a lot of the roles what they have now, just so if people looking for roles, they got virtual CISOs, for example. They got GRC engineers is what they starting to go to now. Sometimes they don't even title the position ISO no more or GRC. They just you got to read the description, just put in keywords, define what the job is. But once you get these interviews going forward, and then and then I also forgot to tell you, even with LinkedIn, like you got to make sure that your LinkedIn is fully updated. Like meaning, like when you have projects, put in the projects you actually did at your job and use keywords so people can find you. So that, and you got to talk about what you're doing now. And these are the ways that you're going to kind of get jobs now. And that's kind of where the market is. If you're not able to speak to what's going on, if you don't have it on your resume, then you're not going to get a job right now.
Because I have a question. What do you think are some of the things that employers are not seeing on resumes that's becoming a concern?
So the main thing I think what I'm going to talk about my old resume. The main thing it was
Oh, okay.
saying, like I said, modernization is a big issue. They want to see that you can actually. They want to see that you understand the cloud compliance process. They want to see you have new terminologies like zero trust. They
Mm,
want to because that's what the government is moving to. And the reason I know that because I go to a lot of government conferences, and if you're in the government, you can go to a lot of them for free. They'll tell you what they're going to do. They tell you that implementation is a big thing. They want to know how you implement it. If you have poems, they want to see how did you reduce the poems? Like where did
mm,
it go to? You reduced it from 800 to 200. They want to see that you create. How do you do continuous monitoring? They want you to explain how do you do continuous monitoring. How do you track it? Are you having meetings? What do you do? They want to see. They want to see how are you getting these ATOs. But what I would suggest to a lot of people, use the terminology that they're using. A lot of the times they'll tell you what they want, and the main thing they want is to make sure you're implementing. They want to. They don't want you to
mm,
say that hey, I know how to test controls. A lot of people resumes they say I test controls. A lot of people say we monitor. What does that mean? A lot of people say we create documentation. When you get in an interview, they're going to ask you how do you create documentation. If you're using some compliance tools, you got to make sure you know it like the back of your hand. How do you how are you using EMAS? What do you do
mm,
on EMAS? Why are you doing it on EMAS? You got to really spell out the process, and you got to have a lot of that stuff on your resume too. And again, if a lot of people want to see what a compliance resume look like, if you go to my LinkedIn, I have a. If you go to my highlights, I have you can download a copy of an updated RMF resume or GRC resume in the government sector, so that you can kind of understand like what is going on, what it needs to be in the resume. But that's kind of what is going on.
oh, that's awesome, awesome, and I hope that helps a lot of people. I think me and you, we even talked about, resume and resume building. And I know that buzzwords are some of the things that I had to key in on because I didn't have the buzzwords that a lot of employers are looking for, like zero trust, like how to implement controls. And I think to your point, it's not about, okay, I can test controls, I can create documentation. It's, okay, how did you do it? Right? Like I already know, like a lot of people employ you that are interviewing you, they know how that works. They know the process. They want to get into the psyche of how are you doing it? What is your process for doing it? Because
So
sometimes what happens, go ahead, Chris.
no, go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
Hey, 'cause I was just going to say, because sometimes they want to hear if you can actually articulate what the RMF process looks like and not just regurgitate what you've heard or what you already, been doing for the last 4 or 5 years. Do you really have a high level understanding of what you do?
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. Like off my resume, I can say I led RMF efforts for, I'm not going to name the system, ensuring alignment with DOD 8510, NIST 853 Rev 5, and DOD SRG and Mission Control cryptography standards as FIPS 199 and 140 across multiple on-prem and cloud environments. That explains everything you need to know on what you did.
Mm,
And I'm gonna give you another example, like maintain, update system documentation, including system security plans, CONOPS, boundary diagrams, SAPs, collaborating closely with engineers and administrators through the NA process. So you see how that says it? It kind of breaks down what you actually do to an in-depth. Like you're hitting all the key words, but they're seeing that you're tagging everything across the board. And then another thing, like if you do, like for example, so I just do vulnerability scans. Like say if you say conduct vulnerabilities and compliance testing, including ACAS, SCAP scans, with stick benchmark, analyzing results, implement, and I keep telling you, implementing remediation strategies or strengthening security posture. So that's kind of going in depth. And some of
mm,
the, yeah, so you get what I mean? Oh, now?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then they want to hear like buzzwords. They want to hear that you're doing SRGs. You're doing SRGs for cloud computing. They want to know how you're doing zero trust strategies. And I'm not saying just put anything on your resume. You put the things that you actually work with, you know. But if you're going to put on your resume, you got to make sure you understand what you're even putting. Like even with the documentation, like NIST 853, NIST 800 171. Sometimes they might ask you, what is NIST 871? You can talk about, hey, NIST 870. What's the difference between 853 and NIST 871? For example, I'm just giving you an example. Like, for example, NIST 800 171 is for cybersecurity maturity model certification. So with that, it's a certification. To comply with the certification, you have to make sure you have certain documentation in place, like the access control, SSP. All of that is coming from NIST 800 171. And you have to make sure it aligns with that, because when they audit your system, you can fail. NIST 853, and a lot of the controls come from NIST 853. NIST
Mm-hmm.
853 is more for implementing controls in the government systems. So that's the difference, you know. Like that's kind of the things they want to know. Can you explain what FedRAMP is? Can you
Mm-hmm.
explain the provisional authorization process? Can you explain what CONMOM is? You know, that's what they're looking for. They want you to be able to explain to them in a very detailed way.
That's good.
Did it make sense?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think that helped a lot of people because I think again, like not necessarily knowing what to put in your resume, I think has prevented a lot of people from even receiving calls from employers.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so we're gonna go into, we got Offspring. What did he say? He said, how's it going, fellas? I'm in DOW contract for the Army. Just got my taste at EMAS and RMF over the last 6 months. My contract inherited records and had a short turnaround at ATO renewal. Dang, I feel bad for you,
Dang,
man.
a short turnaround ATO. It's probably
Yeah.
like six months to a year.
So if you got it for 6 months, you
Oh,
said it last, you only got 3 months.
you 6 months. You ain't got no time. You got to start to work tomorrow.
Yeah, you got 3 months, man. Hopefully you get some conditions
Yeah.
that you might have to meet. But and make sure you create plan of actions for that. And just like I said, make sure you can articulate it because they're going to ask you what's going on.
Mhm.
He said, I got thrust into an ISM role with essentially no experience. Someone has to. Now I understand Offspring. Yeah, that's a wild situation.
Wow, isn't roll.
He said, all man point, plan of action and milestones. That's been my biggest headache with our project. The last folks wrote a bunch of bull crap, cite a bunch of
Failed
irrelevant.
security checks.
Yeah, you got to go through those and make sure they're good. Hey, but if all
Nothing
set,
burger milestones.
yeah. Hey, hey, offset, if offspring, if you need some help, check me out. Hit me up in the DMs on LinkedIn. Check out RMF Academy. Definitely can get you through that stuff if you need help breaking that stuff down.
Man, ciphering through all them poems is a headache, man. I'm definitely wishing you the best of luck.
Yeah, wish you the best. We got Paul Chavez. Been on the RMF game for a while. Glad these compliance discussions are happening on LinkedIn Space. Yeah, I'm glad it's happening. I put out a poll and to see what people wanted, and this is a big topic people wanted to see. So, a buddy O decided to come on. So we're definitely gonna go through this.
We need you to come back to the game like MJ, Paul.
Yeah, yeah. Keep coming back. You gonna make
We
a
need
come.
we need we need your experience.
Yeah, come back, Paul. Make sure you follow and sign up for his academy. He's spinning some real game here and gold. Thank you, Jose. Yeah, check out RMF Academy. Check out RMF Academy if you want more information. I can go into it more depth so that you can get into the space. And if any government employers watching, definitely do consulting for government spaces. Same thing with O. He does consulting, does things like that. So if you need some, just make sure you hit up O too.
Dope.
Yeah, so that's where the RMF space is going, and that's what you have to do to kind of get a job, and make sure you understand. Get into a VMware, start playing around. Um,
Mm,
get into
yeah.
VMwares. Again, AJ Yon. Shout out to AJ Yon. He has a book about GR. He's an amazing book about engineering AWS. A lot of that stuff seems simple, but I've known people to get books, get jobs off his book, join uh, these communities. But GRC engineering is going to be the main wave. But there's going to be different positions that open up. DevOps, GRC engineering. But again, they're changing all the names.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to get into next? Okay, so what is okay, we also going to get into like for this role with GRC, no matter what in GRC space, the GovTech space, you're going to have your security plus. But what there's some people that certified they have the security plus the AWS certs, all the information you're talking about. But what's the main reason why you think they're not getting jobs right now in this space?
For GRC.
Yeah, just GRC in general.
I think it kind of goes back to what you just said, right? Even though a lot of people do have a security plus, I think one of the other things they're also looking for is because I think what is the IETT? It's the IET3,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the CISM and the CISSP. So they're looking for people who have those certs as well, right? Because that kind of puts you into a different bracket. Because to be frank with you, a lot of people have a security plus now, and a lot of people have a top secret clearance, right? Some people have a TS SEI, and that normally depends on the impact level of the system that you're potentially going to work on. Because Val 6 and Val 7, you need to have a higher clearance in order for you to work on those programs. But in regards to GRC, man, I think they're expecting people to have a little bit more experience, technical experience, high level experience. I think just having the security plus just isn't footing the bill anymore. And having a CISSP or having a CISM cert, I think that again that kind of pushes the needle for you just a tad bit because it becomes a little bottleneck just because you have an abundance of people who have um, a security plus and have a little bit of experience. So it's like, okay, how do we pick the best candidates out of these bunch of people that we're looking at? And I think getting a CISSP probably kind of helps you get in the face of some of these employers. What's your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I agree. I think you need to just at least have the certifications. Security
Mm-hmm.
Plus, CISP. It will at least get you in the door because if you don't have it, you won't even get in the door. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these employers, they want to understand like what do you actually know now? Because
Mm-hmm.
and that's why you got to articulate it in your resume. So I think you need to really articulate, and then also too is getting to the point now where you got to have a personal brand. So, and I know when I mean build a personal brand, go on LinkedIn, build your personal brand out. If you need help with that, hit me up. But and I got videos on building your personal brand. So that's what you got to do now. Explain this. How would you solve something? How do you interview? You got to practice now. You got to really practice on a constant basis.
Mm.
Like for me, I practice on a constant basis, just interview prep, just making sure I understand what I'm talking about, and make sure you understand what's on your resume because sometimes they might ask you about firewalls. Sometimes they might ask you about a WSUS or a public key infrastructure or things like that. You got to be able to understand how does public key infrastructure work. How does this work? Because at the end of the day, if somebody's going to pay you six figures or pay you this money, they want to make sure that you understand what's going on. It's not free money they're giving out. Then, and I don't, I know a lot of people talk about that, but it just don't work like that. It's a lot of times I've had sleepless nights working in cybersecurity. You got to really love and understand this space, especially when it comes to this space because it's kind of boring. It's a little bit boring. I'm not going to lie to you. You got to have a passion for making sure things are implemented.
That's a good point. And even like you said, right, you talked about VMware, and sometimes you can get a VMware, download that on your own desktop, and then you can play with different CM tools like Splunk, right? So you're learning how like log managing and things like that work. So having that experience also makes you a little bit more desirable for employers as well. So I like the fact that you brought up VMware because that was one of the ways in which I was able to get better when it came to, going through Linux and learning the command language and things like that.
Yeah, just get into it. Just make sure you understand. Even if you're self-hosting, learn about self-hosting tools. A lot of the RMF space is getting to a point where you're going to be using GitHub. Um, GitHub has a lot of information. They're going to go through GitHub, submit tickets through GitHub. So GitHub is another thing people are going to start using. Understand these tools. And if you're watching, remember to like the video, share the video. If you're on live, make sure if you're watching, make sure you comment. We just like to hear y'all comment, respond, have any questions. This is a conversation for everybody. So if you have some, just put it down. We got Paul Chavez. Did RMF compliance for F5 F-35 programs with Lockheed Martin 15 years still have PTSD over sticks, poem, and emails? Well, you've been. We understand your pain.
I still have nightmares.
Yeah, so you've been in the field. Trust me, we have PTSD every day. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. Did I send an email right? Did I get those
Right,
things? Did I get a
right.
response? Sometimes you have some sleepless nights because you don't know, and that can cost you your
You
job.
do. As far as stage poems and emails, that is the trifecta, the three-headed monster.
He said, "Is the IEC squared CGRC certified information governance compliance worth it?" To be honest with you, I would just get a security plus. I don't think it's going to help you understand compliance that well. I know people that have it, but I don't know anybody that has it in the government space. Just the government requires you have a security plus. I will focus on that. It's cheaper. You'll get an understanding of what cybersecurity is, the terminologies, and you'll have at least entryway to get a job. So I wouldn't focus on that. That's just my opinion.
I agree. I haven't heard of any jobs looking for that, so I wouldn't go that route. If that's not what they're looking for, then I wouldn't waste my time. They're normally looking for an IAT level 2 or IAT level 3 cert. So those are the ones that you really want to look for. But to Chris's point, a security plus is basically the baseline. So you want to start there.
Yeah, I do that. And another thing I teach a lot of people, man, just take the cert that you want to get, put it inside Indeed, and see how many jobs pop up. Uh,
Facts.
for the Google cybersecurity cert, a lot of people ask me about that, and to this day on YouTube, people criticize me saying that I'm wrong or whatever. But I'm like, you put it on Indeed. You're not going to see anything. That's not going to help. I don't care if you got a Google. I care about what a security plus is. It's a requirement in the government.
Right, right.
I mean,
If it's
if
a
you,
requirement, you can't go wrong with that.
yeah, hey, So yeah, that's what I would focus on that. He said, I got my security plus in 2021. I should be good for now. Yeah, it should. It expires every 3 years. You sure it's not expired, Mac?
I was about to ask the same question. Make
It
sure it
might
ain't
be.
expired.
It might be expired, Mac. Unless you renewed it. So just check to see if it's expired. You can go to CompTIA and check on that. Okay, so we're gonna get into the big topic. And we're slowly getting to it. We talked about everything. We talked about where the job is, where the faults, where it's going. The biggest thing people want to know: will will GRC or RMF be replaced by AI? You want to go first, though?
Like I mentioned before, I think we're a little ways before it's completely replaced. And me and Chris have had these conversations before. When will be doomsday, where AI would just basically take over everything, or the AGI, as a lot of people in the tech space have been talking about. But I think we're a little ways before it completely overhauls any compliance ISO positions. I do think it's slowly getting to a point where you don't need as much ISO, um, I guess, presence in the program. So I do think that AI would basically work alongside with ISOs, because at the end of the day, AI is still, I don't want to say it's in the infancy stage, but it hasn't reached the stage where it doesn't need human oversight, right? Or human supervision, if you will. It's still going to require those things. So even if it has one ISO, but then AI is automating documentation, it's like SSPs, it's creating poems and things like that, you can't hold AI accountable, right? For mistakes. So that's where human involvement is still needed, and ISOs, GRC individuals will still be very much required in those positions. But I just think what's going to happen is the number of ISO positions year by year will start to grow less and less. So I think that's really what we're heading into. So again, building that technical experience, going into machine learning and AI, you want to understand AI governance, I'm sorry, AI compliance, like understand how to secure AI, right? And again, it's not something that you should be up in arms about and lose sleep over right now, but it is something that you want to gradually learn. So when that time does come where we're seeing AI really take over the job market, you want to be prepared.
I agree. With the government, we're going into a space where agentic AI agents are getting into the government space. We got AI that's coming, but from my opinion, I think AI has so many risks. It has
Yeah.
so many vulnerabilities. There's so much we don't know about AI. I think it will create more jobs. I think the jobs is going to go more for the more experienced GRC personnel or risk management personnel. But what I will say is AI will be more used as a tool that you can use because it's a long way. Because like I said, AI agents are deleting databases. AI
Mm,
agents are doing things. And I think at one time, I think AI agents created their own website. We
mm,
don't. We got to figure out how to control that. You got to have authentications of when it can do something, when it can't do something. I think it's going to be good. Like we got things we can use it for, like for vulnerability scans and things like that. But we're not at the point where it's going to take over the job. It's just more of a tool. And I will say, the quicker you learn about AI risk management, these things, and learn how these tools work, it can make you more employable. But I don't think it's going nowhere. I think it's just going to
right,
create more risk. I see it as an opportunity for everybody to get more money, in my opinion.
right. And you got to keep in mind too, Chris, a lot of the way this current generation is, and I think I spoke to this 2 episodes prior, where a lot of kids right now who are graduating in 2026, they have been exposed to AI throughout their whole higher learning. So you have to think about how a lot of them are native to AI. So they're coming out of these schools, whether they did computer science, computer technology, whatever the case may be, and they have all this experience already coming out of college, right? So, employers are going to be looking for them, right? Because they already have a little bit of experience when it comes to AI. So also bear in mind, if you're looking to hire people coming out of college, they're cheaper. And I think essentially a lot of jobs, that's kind of what they're looking for. How can I? Because AI essentially does make things cheap because you don't necessarily have to hire so many people. But also to your point, Chris, it does create more jobs. And I think these kids coming out of college, are going to be some of the prime suspects that employers are going to be looking for to fill these positions too. So something to kind of just think about.
Yeah, I agree. That's why we got to stay more and more on our game because they coming.
They're coming.
We got Jose. He said it will get to a point where AI agent will do some work and we'll have one or two ISSOs and ISM as a human in the loop. I think
Yeah,
so.
I agree. I agree.
Jose, he said get technical experience will be required. I agree.
100%.
Paul said, good point. AI introduces an entirely different risk planes in GRC. There will be AI hallucinations for a while.
Yeah.
If someone like an ISO is looking for a shortcut to compliance checks, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree 100% on that. If anybody
Yeah.
has any comments, we're getting close. But if you have any comments, remember if you like it, share it so people can get information. Definitely do that so we can know you're watching. So, oh, what do you think RMF is going to be in the next 5 years?
RMF risk management framework in the next 5 years. That's a good question. That's hard to say. It's hard to say. I just think that RMF will become more automated. Most importantly, and I think another thing we have to think about is the security when it comes to RMF and making sure things are in compliance is going to even be vastly more important, right? And we talked about how right now we're at IL7 in regards to impact levels. Now, when you're thinking about RMF, and this is something that the DoD is or Department of War is using, in order for them to secure or to be in compliance, then I can only imagine, especially with the climate today and with AI and not necessarily understanding AI to the point where we can secure it. I think RMF will become more automated and it will also become more rigid as well. So, because you got to think about it, right? When it comes down to IL7, that kind of tells you that because it's IL7, right, and it's mean it's the data that it has on a given system is a lot more sensitive than an IL6. That also tells you that there's going to be more controls that needs to be administered to this particular system. So if the impact levels are steadily growing and they're steadily going from one level to the next, then you can only imagine what RMF is going to look like in the next 2 to 3 and even 5 years. Where it's going to get to the point where, and even with the cloud growing as well, it's hard for us to secure these systems, especially if they're on the cloud and it's no longer platform as a service, right? It's no longer infrastructure, right? But everything has moved on to the cloud. Then what they're looking for is we have to make sure that we have more effort when it comes to securing a lot of these systems. So I think RMF is just going to become more priority. It's going to become more rigid, and they're just going to expect a lot more from us, and a lot of things are going to be automated as well. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree. I think RMF is going to be a little bit more faster. It's going to be automated. It's going to be definitely be more technical. It's going to be
Yeah,
a lot of integration. I just think it's going to be less paperwork and just more of like we talked about earlier, more of an advisor, implementation, validator, and just kind of more of a business strategist. I think that's where the space is going, and you got to really adapt because you won't be able to get a job unless you're moving towards that.
yeah. I mean, you got to learn a lot of cloud tools, a lot of cloud terminologies. You got to learn APIs. You got to learn IMN, information and access management. You have to learn how networks communicate with one another. Like a lot of that stuff is becoming a requirement from ISOs now. because you don't know the basic level things, it's going to be hard.
I agree. Is it worth considering too that AI agent is great for automation those tasks, but the human element is difficult for it to replicate in terms of something like forming a risk acceptance. Yeah, I agree. I think it can do minor tasks, but it's always going to have somebody on a human that needs to review it because, like I said, AI is not smart. It literally hallucinates and gives you wrong information. And when you tell it,
Right.
it'll say, "Yeah, I made a mistake."
And people ingest biases into AI as well, so you have to keep that in mind. So to your point, at Offspring, I think that's valid because again, you still need human presence in order for you to assess risk. That shouldn't be a responsibility that falls on AI.
Agree. We got Offspring and in consideration of mission impact. Got you. He said, by the way, appreciate your sit down with Softera. My team is testing out their RMF product to see if it could be used to assist with our daily actions. Hey, so Offspring, shout out to Softera, shout out to Dale, shout out to everybody on that team. When it comes to the risk management space, they know what they're doing. They're in the future RMF. I've talked to them. They got AI chatbots so you can break down what's going on. But shout out to that company. They are a really good company. They're some of the best people when I talked about into this space. So just shout out to Softera. Shout out to Open RMF. Yeah, they're a great company. I'm glad you're using it, Offspring. It's a good software, and I'm definitely going to do stuff with them in the future regarding about the future RMF because they have a lot to say. They're a very intelligent team. They built that software from the ground up. They just left the government and built it. So yeah, shout out to them. I got a lot of love to them. Shout out to Software. Yep. So we're getting to the so we're going to the closing and messages. So do you have any last things you want to say about the future of RMF?
Future is now. Future is now. Get ready. Today may look a certain way. Tomorrow's going to look entirely different. But in all honesty, though, I think even for myself, what I've learned, right, even through this conversation, and what I hope that everybody else has learned, is that we have to continuously evolve ourselves. Remaining stagnant, staying in a particular role or situation, not increasing our knowledge, not keeping up with what's going on in the cyber world, what's going on in the tech world. We have to understand in regards to our technology climate today, what is going on and what's happening, because those are the things that we need to apply to ourselves. Those are the things that we need to have a better handle understanding on, because whatever position, whatever role that you're in, whatever role that you're applying for, those things are going to be brought up because you have to be in the know into what's going on. Because, and I mentioned this before, due to the climate of our country, right? We there's a lot of things that's going on. We're dealing with, certain adversaries and things of that nature. And they're creating technologies that are not just probing our systems, but they're actively trying to assess our information technologies. So you have to keep that in mind that systems and technologies are constantly evolving, but it doesn't mean that we remain stagnant where we are. We have to evolve with these technologies as well. So I will always say stay in the know, see what's going on, look to see, okay, where is AI going? What are some deals that are being made? We talked about the AWS, not the AWS, but the Microsoft Azure and Open AI deal. Knowing some of those things and how it can affect the market or impact the market, that can be helpful to either of us into, okay, what job should I be applying to next? Or what should I be learning or studying so I can give myself a better opportunity to land a new job? So just stay in the know. Don't stay behind.
Yeah. And where can they find you?
Find me on Osasu Osaji on LinkedIn. LinkedIn only. You can also find me on Facebook too. Osasu Osaji. I have Chris drop the LinkedIn, my LinkedIn handle in the chat. But you can definitely find me on LinkedIn at Osasu Osaji.
Yeah, and to the audience, I did want to tell y'all with the new space of cybersecurity is changing to a something that we might not understand. You have to understand implementation. You got to understand technology as a unison, especially if you're going to get into this space. It's changing. But I do want to leave a quote with you. It's from one of my favorite martial artists. His name is Bruce Lee. Uh, Be water, my friend. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless like water. You put your water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put your water in a bottle, it becomes the water. You put it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. So what I'm saying to y'all, make sure that you're adapting to the cybersecurity space and become water. You gotta adapt, So that's it, and then that's what it is on that. I'm gonna share Osasu's LinkedIn. Give me 1 second.
Can I have that on a t-shirt?
Hey, that's a bar, right?
Be like water, and you have like the water going into a teacup, and you got
Yeah.
AI, you got RMF in there. That'd be dope, man.
Clothing
Yeah,
designers coming out.
yeah, man. I still got that creativity when it comes to clothing.
Yeah. To everybody, I put Osasu's LinkedIn, so you can make sure you check it out. I did want to leave one more thing with the audience. If you want to get an adaptation of your resume, go to my LinkedIn. Check out my highlights. If people want to know what a GRC, I have an example on my page. Also, to everybody, I'm going to put it in here. If you're trying to, 1 second, I'm about to put something in the chat. And just for the audience, if you're trying to break into RMF right now and you don't have you don't understand the frameworks, you don't understand how a system works, you don't understand how the RMF process works in general, just make sure you check out RMF Academy. We have an EMAS emulator. We talk about this, interview prep. So make sure you check out RMF Academy. RMF Academy, we break down these things. And I do it from a real experience. I've worked in these roles. I see how it's changing. So if you want to check it out, we have a 5-day core and on May 25th. And I put the link. So just make sure you check it out. And to everybody, I just want to say, if you're watching, make sure you like, subscribe. Make sure that you're in the comments, write something if you have a different opinion. Share the video and check out RMF Academy. And remember, everybody, get 1% better every day. Peace out and become water. See you on the next one, everybody.